The Galactic Empire had ruled the Andromeda sector for 3,000 years without challenge. Their fleets numbered in the millions, their technology was unmatched, and their arrogance was absolute. When the first human exploration vessel had stumbled into their territory 5 years ago, the Empire had laughed. These primitive creatures, barely capable of faster-than-light travel, posed no threat to the mighty Zephyrian dominion. Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Dominance, his 6 eyes scanning the holographic displays with practiced ease. Today was supposed to be routine, another patrol along the Empire's outer rim, crushing any resistance from the subjugated worlds. The humans had been silent since their initial encounter, presumably wise enough to know their place. "Commander," the tactical officer's voice interrupted his thoughts, "we're detecting a spatial anomaly at coordinates 77 Mark 9. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in mild curiosity. "Specification?" "Unknown, sir. It's not matching any known phenomenon in our database. The readings are contradictory." Before Vexthor could respond, the anomaly exploded into existence. Space itself seemed to tear open, not with the familiar purple swirl of hyperspace or the blue cascade of jump points, but with something entirely different. Reality rippled like water, bending and folding in ways that made the sensors scream with impossible data. And then, in a fraction of a heartbeat, it was there. The human warship. It hung in the void like a predator frozen mid-strike, sleek, angular, and utterly alien to Imperial design philosophy. Where Zephyrian vessels were ornate and decorative, symbols of power and prestige, this ship was brutal efficiency incarnate. Its hull was a matte black that seemed to absorb light itself, broken only by thin veins of pulsing blue energy that ran along its surface like neural pathways. "Analysis." Vexthor barked, his casual demeanor evaporating. The tactical officer's claws fumbled over the controls. "Attempting scan, Commander. The ship it's not showing up on conventional sensors. We can only track it visually and through gravitational displacement. Mass estimates suggest it's only a tenth of our size, perhaps a light cruiser equivalent." Vexthor's tension eased slightly. A single small ship against an Imperial dreadnought was suicide. "Hail them. Inform them they have violated Imperial space and must surrender immediately or..." "Commander!" The communications officer's voice was sharp with panic. "The ship is charging weapons." "Impossible," Vexthor said, but his eyes were already finding the truth on the displays. The blue veins along the human ship's hull were intensifying, converging toward what could only be weapon emplacements. "Raise shields. Charge main cannons. If these primitives want a demonstration of Imperial might, we shall provide it." The Eternal Dominance came alive with power, its massive shields flickering into visibility as they drew strength from the ship's 12 fusion cores. The main plasma cannons, each capable of vaporizing a city, began their charging sequence. The human ship fired first. There was no warning, no energy buildup that their sensors could detect. One moment it was stationary, the next, a lance of pure white light erupted from its bow. The beam crossed the distance between ships, nearly 50,000 kilometers, in what seemed like an instant. When it struck the Eternal Dominance's shields, something impossible happened. The shields didn't overload. They didn't fail. They simply ceased to exist, as if someone had reached into reality and erased them from existence. The beam continued through, cutting into the dreadnought's hull like a knife through paper. Armor plating that could withstand nuclear detonations parted like silk. Alarms shrieked across the bridge. Shield collapse. Hull breach on decks 40 through 60. We're venting atmosphere. Secondary reactors offline. Vexthor stared in disbelief. A single shot. One shot from a ship a tenth their size had crippled his dreadnought. Return fire. All batteries. The Eternal Dominance unleashed hell. Dozens of plasma cannons fired simultaneously, a barrage that could crack planets. Missile pods opened, releasing swarms of fusion warheads. The human ship should have been atomized. Instead, it moved. The vessel didn't accelerate in any conventional sense. It simply displaced, shifting through space in ways that made tracking impossible. One moment it was in the path of the weapons fire, the next, it was 3,000 kilometers starboard, untouched. The missiles pursued, but the ship blinked out of existence and reappeared elsewhere, leaving the warheads to detonate harmlessly in empty space. "What is that?" Vexthor whispered, his confidence shattering like glass. The human ship fired again. This time, 5 beams lanced out simultaneously, each targeting a different critical system. The dreadnought's main engines exploded. Its remaining reactors went offline. Life support failed across half the ship. In less than 30 seconds, the pride of the Imperial Navy had been reduced to a drifting hulk. Emergency lighting bathed the bridge in red. Vexthor could hear the screams of his crew through the dying comm system, feel the ship shuddering as secondary explosions rippled through its hull. And through it all, the human warship hung there, untouched, unmoving, like a dark god passing judgment. A communication request pinged on the auxiliary console, one of the few systems still functional. With trembling claws, Vexthor accepted it. A human face appeared on the screen. Female, young by human standards, with cold gray eyes that held no mercy. When she spoke, her words were calm, almost casual. "Commander Vexthor of the Zephyrian Empire, my name is Captain Elena Zhao of the Terran Defense Coalition ship. Retribution. 5 years ago, your empire destroyed our exploration vessel and enslaved its crew. You called us primitive. Inferior. Not worth your consideration." She leaned forward, and Vexthor saw the rage burning behind that icy facade. "We spent those 5 years preparing. Studying. Building. Your empire controls thousands of worlds with technology that hasn't fundamentally changed in centuries. You've grown complacent. We, however, have been fighting and innovating for our entire existence. Every war, every conflict has pushed us further." Behind her, Vexthor could see the bridge of the human ship, compact, efficient, and covered in displays showing what he realized were dozens of Imperial vessels, all tagged and tracked. "This is your only warning," Captain Zhao continued. "Release our people. Leave the contested sectors. Or we will show you what happens when you corner a species that learned warfare before it learned space travel." The transmission ended. The human ship vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, folding back into whatever impossible dimension it had emerged from, leaving the crippled dreadnought and its commander floating in the dark. Vexthor looked at the empty space where the Retribution had been, and for the first time in the Empire's 3,000-year history, he felt something the Zephyrians had never experienced. Fear. The humans were no longer prey. They were predators, and they had just announced their presence to the galaxy in the only language empires truly understood, overwhelming force. The Galactic Empire couldn't react because by the time they understood what had happened, the game had already changed. Humanity had arrived, and the stars would never be the same.